Give credit where credit is due. Harvard University just stood up to Donald Trump and said, you can't dictate how we are running our university. What happened was on April 11th, and then before then as well, the Trump regime sent Harvard University a letter that basically said, you need to submit and become a vassal institution to the Trump regime, where we will audit the viewpoints of your students. We're also going to take a look at your curriculum. You got to teach what the Trump regime wants to teach. You've got to hire the faculty that the Trump regime wants. And if you don't listen to us, Harvard, we are going to defund you. We're going to attack you, and we're going to try to destroy you. This is all part of Donald Trump's attack on the United States. Just think about it. Going after one of America, if not America's number one educational institution. I mean, you can argue whether it's Harvard, Yale, or another institution, but Harvard's probably number one, and Donald Trump wants to destroy it. So after Harvard stood up to Trump, I want to read you the Harvard letter because it was very powerful. The Trump regime then paused $2.2 billion in funding to Harvard, and they're trying to destroy the university right now. Now, also noteworthy are the lawyers that are representing Harvard in this letter to the Trump regime. Some of the top Republican lawyers, for one firm, Quinn Emanuel, another firm, King and Spalding. You'll remember who these lawyers are when I describe it to you in a moment. But let's take a look at the powerful letter that Harvard sent to the Trump regime. Then I want to show you the Trump regime's first letter to Harvard. Then I'll talk about what the Trump regime did by pulling out $2.2 billion of funding to Harvard. And then we'll take a look at some other reactions right here. This was, I think, one of the most powerful lines from this letter that was sent by Harvard to Trump. It says, the demands extend not only to Harvard, but to separately incorporated, independently operated medical and research hospitals engaging in life-saving work on behalf of their patients. The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government. Accordingly, Harvard will not accept the terms as an agreement in principle. So you'll see what the Trump regime did, and this is how they've been shaking down the law firms and shaking down institutions. They send a letter that says, here's the contract. Here's the deal. Here's the agreement in principle. Sign on the dotted line. We're not negotiating, or we're going to destroy you. We're going to bring central planning of the federal government. Sounds very Mao Zedong-ish, right? We're going to take the government and destroy you education. We're going to purge you if you don't submit. Take a look at this letter written back to the Trump regime, smacking them down by Quinn Emanuel and King and Spalding, Republican lawyers from both firms. Here's what it says in their response to the federal government, to the Trump regime. The lawyers say, we represent Harvard. We're writing in response to your letter dated April 11, 2025, addressed to Dr. Alan Garber, Harvard's president, and Penny Pritzker, senior fellow of the Harvard Corporation. Harvard is committed to fighting anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry in its community. Anti-Semitism and discrimination of any kind not only are abhorrent and antithetical to Harvard's values, but also threatens our academic mission. To that end, Harvard has made and will continue to make lasting and robust structural policy and programmatic changes to ensure that the university is welcoming and supporting as a learning environment for all students and continues to abide in all respects with federal law across its academic programs and operations, while fostering open inquiry and a pluralistic community free from intimidation and open challenging orthodoxies, whatever their source. Over the past 15 months, Harvard has undertaken substantial policy and programmatic measures. It has made changes to its campus policies, adopted new accountability procedures, imposed meaningful discipline for those who violate university policies, enhanced programs designed to address bias and promote ideological diversity and civil discourse, hired staff to support these programs and support students, changed partnerships, dedicated resources to combat hate and bias, compliance and enhance safety and security measures. As a result, Harvard is in a very different place today from where it was a year ago. These efforts and additional measures the university will be taking against anti-Semitism not only are the right thing to do, but also are critical to strengthening Harvard's community as a place in which everyone can thrive. It is unfortunate then that your letter disregards Harvard's efforts and instead presents demands that, in contravention of the First Amendment, invade university freedoms long recognized by the Supreme Court. In other words, we're ready to fight you. We're ready to litigate you, you pathetic, vile Trump regime. The government's terms also circumvent Harvard's statutory rights by requiring unsupported and disruptive remedies for alleged harms the government has not proven through mandatory processes established by Congress and required by law. No less objectionable is the condition first made explicit in the letter of March 31st, 2025, that Harvard accede to these terms or risk the loss of billions of dollars in federal funding critical to vital research and innovation that has saved and improved lives and allowed Harvard to play a central role in making our country's scientific, medical, and other research communities the standard bearers for the world. The demands extend not only to Harvard, but to separately incorporated, independently operated medical and research hospitals engaging in life-saving work on behalf of their patients. The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government. Accordingly, Harvard will not accept the government's terms as an agreement in principle. Harvard remains open to dialogue about what the university has done and is planning to do to improve the experience of every member of its community, but Harvard is not prepared to agree to demands that go beyond the lawful authority of this or any administration. Signed, William Burke, a lawyer from Quinn Emanuel, and Robert Herr, a lawyer from King and Spalding. Let's talk briefly about who these lawyers are. As Charles Fishman explains, fascinating element of Harvard's refusal to buckle to the Trump administration today. Who are Harvard's lawyers in this matter? Number one is Robert Herr. Sound familiar? Robert Herr is the former United States Attorney for Maryland, named by Donald Trump. Then Robert Herr was the special counsel who investigated former President Biden's mishandling of classified documents. Herr was the guy who said Biden was an elderly man with poor memory and declined to charge Biden. That's Harvard lawyer number one. Harvard lawyer number two is William A. Burke, currently a member of the board of directors of Fox Corp, the owner of Fox News, Rupert Murdoch's company, and a lawyer working for Murdoch on the board. Burke served as special counsel to the Republican House Task Force that investigated the attempted assassination of President Trump. Burke is good friends with Justice Brett Kavanaugh, clerk to Justice Anthony Kennedy, special counsel in the George W. Bush White House. That's Harvard lawyer number two in the case of Harvard refusing to bow to the Trump administration. Given Harvard's access to legal talent, Harvard Law School alone has 100 faculty. These two people from these two firms are no accidents. Two lawyers with impeccable Republican credentials, one a former Trump appointee, signing a blistering letter on Harvard's behalf, eviscerating the original notice letter from the Trump Department of Education. Harvard is in for the long fight. Senator Bernie Sanders wrote the following: "Congratulations to Harvard for refusing to relinquish its constitutional rights to Trump authoritarianism. Other universities should follow their lead, and instead of doing pro bono work for Trump, cowardly law firms should be defending those who believe in the rule of law." Now, after that letter, the Trump regime paused $2.2 billion in funding after Harvard vows to resist demands. You know, from what we just read, Harvard will not comply with the Trump regime's demands to dismantle its diversity programming and limit student protests in exchange for federal funding. University President Alan M. Garber announced in a message to affiliates Monday afternoon. The Trump regime then paused $2.2 billion in multi-year grants and $60 million in multi-year contracts to Harvard over its decision earlier today to reject the White House's demands, a dramatic escalation in its crusade against the university. Trump regime going after the number one university and research center because they refuse to become a vassal university of the Trump regime. Just think about Trump, a pathetic, crappy student who we don't even know what his grades were because he hides and conceals it, Donald Trump is jealous. So Donald Trump wants to control Harvard himself, the same way he wants to control these law firms to do the bidding for him. By the way, shout out to those law firms, King and Spalding and Quinn Emanuel. They've been consistently standing up against the Trump regime while other big firms have folded. This was the second letter the Trump regime sent. They sent one back on March 31st. Here's their letter, April 11th, 2025. Just take a look at how they frame this. This is how the Trump regime writes it. This is how their shakedown takes place. They go, here are the terms of our contract. If acceptable to Harvard, this document will constitute an agreement in principle, which the parties will work in good faith into translating into a more thorough binding agreement. As you will see, this letter incorporates and supersedes the government's previous letter. So it goes and it talks about how the federal government wants control over admissions in Harvard. They want to audit the student body, faculty, and staff for their viewpoints. Yes, the Trump regime wants an audit of the student body's views and where their political views are, and they want Harvard to carry it out on behalf of the federal government. Discontinuation of DEI. The university must shutter all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, offices, committees, positions, initiative under whatever its name, and stop all DEI-based policies, including DEI-based disciplinary or speech control policies under whatever name. Demonstrate it has done this to the satisfaction of the Trump regime. Think about how horrific that is. I'm glad Harvard is standing up. I hope other universities stand up. I hope other law firms stand up. Use your voice. Trump is a pathetic, vile, cornered little rat. No offense to cornered rats. They have far more integrity than Trump. Stand up to this fool. Be loud about it. We're in this together for the democracy. Please. I think good work, Harvard, there. I mean, there's other things you can criticize them for, but good work there. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.